I'm Saurabh Mehta, and I look after the IBM storage business as well as the Unix business for this region, and I see most of the faces which are familiar to me here. So during my discussion today, I will be basically highlighting the need for virtualizing your storage environment. So people are talking about virtualizing their server environment, people are talking about server consolidation. But one very major aspect today for a growing requirement of any data center is storage consolidation, because data is just growing. You start dumping files, you start making a unified kind of a storage environment for your organization, wherein you've got a lot of people accessing the same kind of a storage device. Data is just growing day by day. So the main aspect of looking at a storage consolidation or looking at storage virtualization now arises. And as a result of an analysis which has been done, people are looking towards storage virtualization and consolidation primarily because information is growing. At the same time, your storage requirements are growing. But at the same time, there is nothing being given additional as an IT budget specifically for storage requirements. So storage budgets are flat. So what is another aspect to be looked at while looking at your growing storage requirement or environment is that business analytics demand high volume of data to be accessed very quickly. So it could be at the end of a month or maybe at the end of a quarter or year end. Your top CEOs or top managing director level people would come up and say that I need data for our sales performance, or I need data for customer satisfaction results. All such queries and operations require the entire storage infrastructure to be recomputed, to be reorganized for analysis purpose. So obviously business analytics is a very crucial component when it comes to managing your storage. So what is happening? Many companies are spending money in ways they'd rather not. So people are spending more and more money in managing your mission critical applications. You're spending more and more money around server compute and server consolidation. Whereas backup, availability of data, archiving of data is still secondary when it comes to budgeting for your data requirements or your storage requirements. So here are some examples of how server consolidation or server virtualization are being looked at today. So people are talking about multiple VMs and using VMware or Microsoft hypervisor or a Power VM virtualization kind of technologies to consolidate more and more of their server workloads. But what about storage? Has anyone thought about a common hypervisor for a mixed kind of requirement of storage? It could be your a tier 1 kind of application requirement. Tier 1 is the highest performing disk kind of a requirement that could be used for your database purpose. A tier 3 could be your least performance kind of a storage requirement that could be purely for archival. So has anyone thought about having a common window for managing all these kind of requirements, be it in a mixed infrastructure? Could be a storage connected to a certain set of x86 servers, could be a storage connected to a set of virtual machines. How do we consolidate all of this and have a common user interface for managing the entire storage footprint is a question of prime importance today. So how does storage virtualization help you? So it helps you consolidate all your resources, that is pooling together all your different types of storage requirements. Could be a tier 1 database kind of requirement, could be a tier 3 archival or backup kind of need. Obviously, when you are having different kinds of storage islands or pools of storage coming under a common window, what is a question is having a standard way of organizing or looking at it or accessing it. Provisioning is something of prime importance again. So you may be having 1000 VMs running in your environment. Each VM is demanding 100 GB of capacity. Now, if your storage box itself limits beyond going a 5 terabyte or a 6 terabyte, you may land up in a position or in a situation wherein all your effective storage capacity is assigned to all the VMs, but none of those VMs are actually using 100 GB. It may be a situation wherein one of those VMs is just using 10 GB. What about the remaining 90 GB of provisioned capacity to that particular VM? It is going underutilized. How do we manage this? Is by using something called as thin provisioning. So this is another aspect which is addressed by storage virtualization. And obviously today people are talking about pay per use kind of model. So I need to pay only amount of money for which I want to use the amount of effective storage capacity. So very recently you will hear about solutions about remote backup, wherein people are going to spend amount of money per terabyte of data being backed up. So it's not that I'm going to house a tape library and dump all the data on it. It's about paying per amount of GB or terabyte of capacity which is going to be backed up. So this is more about futuristic solutions and requirements which any of a storage infrastructure administrator would look at. So I've taken an example of a database kind of a storage requirement. Now for each catalog entry, there would be different kind of service levels a database as a storage would need. If you look at a capacity, it will not use very high capacity of storage. At the same time, it will not use very low capacity of storage requirement. It will have a mediocre kind of a storage requirement. But when it comes to IO performance, data access, it needs just the best. It needs to be the highest kind of service levels which are required by a database. So while we are defining our storage requirement for a database, email, video, or different kind of shared files infrastructure, which is a mixed kind of a requirement, catering to what kind of storage disk or storage capacity need to be allocated for each of these various storage requirements is something of prime aspect, which today is going unnoticed. So we are manually managing storage devices for an email kind of a application requirement or a video kind of a share or a shared file kind of infrastructure, which becomes very difficult with data growth. So automizing all of this and automating everything is something which needs to be looked at and which can be addressed by storage virtualization. So storage virtualization steps are very simple. These are some generic steps which any organization can follow. One is consolidate and have common capabilities, wherein I will have a storage hypervisor. I will consolidate all the kind of storage requirements under one hypervisor. Second is I should have a ease of mobility when I'm switching a particular LUN or a storage map to a virtual machine to another virtual machine on the fly. So this is another aspect which has been looked at while devising any of the storage hypervisors available today. The third and most important aspect is management. When I'm saying I'm going to have all these islands of storage consolidated under one roof, under one storage hypervisor, how easy it is to manage that particular storage hypervisor is again a question of importance and something of interest for any IT manager. So up there is a picture or a pictorial representation of how a VMware vCluster or a VMware vCenter server manages various VMs on a server or a server virtualization environment. Now how about optimizing the similar kind of hypervisor or managing various VMs which are nothing but virtual pools of storage in case of storage virtualization on a storage infrastructure? That is possible by either introducing a storage hypervisor which is in the form of a SAN volume controller or a storewise V7000 of IBM. So these are some technologies available today which can help create that middle layer of your hypervisor to help enable you to manage all the underlying storage. So be it a Hitachi storage, be it an IBM storage, be it an EMC or XYZ storage product which you have today, managing all of this or consolidating all of this and managing centrally using a centralized hypervisor is something which needs to be looked at and can be done using a V7000 or a IBM SAN volume controller. Now, by doing all this, what you're going to achieve is a compression ratio for up to 80% less capacity. There is a technology of IBM called as real-time compression engine, which sits in front of any of your NAS header devices, which can compress data up to 80%. Compressing data not only limits the amount of space that data is going to use, it also helps you reduce cost on your backup. Because lesser the data you are going to store, lesser is the time needed to back up that data, and lesser is the cost incurred for managing all of this. So, real-time compression, IBM Protect here. Now, virtual tape library is something which people are talking about a lot today. So, virtualization was like 3 years back, people used to talk about server virtualization. Today, people are talking about storage virtualization and a VTL solution. Now, what is VTL? Virtual tape library. It's nothing but backing up from a disk to a disk to a tape. So it's a disk to tape backup. Again, managing this backup, having a good retrieval ratio and a faster retrieval capability can be done using IBM Protect here, and it can easily save up to 90% or 95% of your smaller disk backups. Obviously, storage virtualization and thin provisioning, which I already discussed, are of prime importance when you want to consolidate more amount of storage in a less data center footprint or less floor space. And obviously, moving data to the right place will always help you ease your storage manageability and guarantee you a faster access. Moving data to the right place is something which I'm going to discuss in detail using IBM Easy Tier technology. What is Easy Tier? How it helps you move data to the right place is what I'm going to discuss around storage virtualization. So IBM SAN volume controller is nothing but a storage hypervisor engine under which you can consolidate multiple storage islands. Now, for example, if I've bought a IBM storage, maybe 3 years back, could be a DS4700. I'd bought a EMC Clarion maybe 2 years back. Now, my Clarion doesn't permit me to add another set of disk drives into the same storage header node or maybe an expansion. And my DS4700 is out of life. I don't have an option of upgrading it. What do? I need more capacity. I could buy another storage of IBM and probably have a SAN volume controller as a hypervisor, add more storage capacity or the new storage requirement to the new storage box, and have a common pool of storage using a SAN volume controller across storage boxes. So by this, I'm not only moving, what I'm doing is, I'm not moving out my older storage devices, I'm making use of it. At the same time, for any new storage requirements,